2 to 5, right here on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio.
Looking for RBI number 27, and he'll find it. This one laced to the right side. Freeman comes in to score. And the Braves have a 3-2 lead on the RBI single by Josh Donaldson.
That turned out to be the winning hit as the Atlanta Braves go on to sweep the Pirates in a 4-game series by defeating them 6-5 last night. It was the second start of the series for Joe Musgraves. And because it was a second start, remember, he was ejected in the first game. And we'll talk to Josh Brown a little bit about that here at 1:30. But it's probably why it wasn't quite that effective. I mean, usually a starter, he's there for 4 days rest. Now, this was his bullpen day that you usually have. And my goodness, he'd thrown less than 20 pitches before he got tossed, throwing the glove down, the hat down. And I know that Greg Brown was on here earlier this week. And like I said, Facebook page, you didn't get that interview. Hey, go to 1420 WEMB Sports Radio, and it's in the video section. It's slugged. You'll see it. You'll be able to listen to our interview. And he also talks about Will Craig from Johnson City. You know, Josh Bell's ahead of him on the Buccos at first base. Doesn't look like Craig's going to be beating him out for the first base bag, starting position on the Pirates. But what's his future? Let me talk a little bit about that. And also, Steve Blass. There's been a little bit of bad blood between the Pirates and Braves recently. Braves, though, well, if there was bad blood that poisoned a team, it would have been the Pirates. So many people thought that the Musgrove, ejection really just destroyed the Pirates pitching staff. And so, therefore, that hurt them. And I'll just say this, in the fifth inning yesterday, Musgrove, ran out of gas, and that's why he allowed, this to Ozzie Albies.
0-2. Hit hard, out towards the gap in right center field. Back towards the wall and off of the wall. Donaldson comes in to score. Markakis right behind him. Had a 2 RBI double by Ozzie Albies, and it's 5-2 Atlanta.
There were the bullpen for Atlanta, maybe some question marks. I wasn't all that impressed with Tuki Toussaint. A lot been said about him, but yeah, it seemed like he left a little bit to be desired. Pirates came back. They had tying run at first base, 2 outs, Josh Bell up before he flew out to deep left. And that meant that it was a 6-5 final. Atlanta sweeping the Pirates. Atlanta now a game and a half in first place. And the Buccos, they're in last. Reds have moved past them. So there you go. So it's going on in baseball now. So along with various other, at least the local I guess that's one of the things that we look at now with baseball. And they said not so many stars. The stars in baseball it's now very localized. Whereas how many people around here were, let's just say, driving around with horseshoes on the front of their car when Peyton Manning was playing for the Colts? And who would have ever thought the Indianapolis Colts would have become a national franchise? Well, did they? I mean, they certainly had their popularity around here when Manning was playing for them. But, that's the thing. It was a very unlikable team. I'm sorry. I still, I'm of the era. I still remember the moving vans out of Baltimore, and that's where the franchise ought to be, and the real, Okay, fine. It's been 35 years, man. Hey, Dodgers should be in Brooklyn. Colts should be in Baltimore. It's that simple, folks, okay? Where should the Rams be? Now, there's a question, okay? There you go right there. But another question that's coming up is 6 schools. I talked about this yesterday. I didn't get to it, but we'll get to it now. 6 schools are going to be notified of serious NCAA violations in college basketball. Mark, oh boy, this name is just wonderful. Schlabach writes for ESPN that a high-ranking NCAA official told CBS Sports on Wednesday that at least 6 Division I men's basketball programs will receive notices of allegations for Level 1 violations, the most serious infraction under NCAA rules, as a result of the federal government's investigation into corruption in the sport. This is where we go right here, because I look at this and I see the payouts and all this, and I mean, I even remember SMU, and we talk about paying the players, and I do wonder if that's going to come. I do think it's the savior for Tennessee athletics because they bring in so much money. And so therefore, although, how would paying the players work? Would it be a cap? Would everybody get some? How do you explain in a Title IX era discrepancies? Well, this football player makes, this quarterback on the football team, he just led his team to the national title. But this women's basketball player also did the same. The problem is that quarterback is a heck of a lot more famous, has a heck of a lot more fans, sold a heck of a lot more seats than the women's basketball player. There's now, a bit of conversation. Why aren't WNBA players paid like NBA players? If it ever came down that had to be, the WNBA goes away immediately. It brings in, I think it's Clay Travis on Outkick the Coverage once pointed this out, NBA brings in $7.1 billion a year. WNBA, $25 million. There's the reason why WNBA players aren't paid like their NBA peers. It's just that simple. Now, but what if it ever came down that they say, you know what, this is just, college athletes are going to have to be paid. What if that ever happened? What do you tell SMU? What do you I know that's a long time ago, but they basically destroyed the football program from ever being a national power again because they paid players. Oh, you couldn't do it then, but you can do it now. What do you say? I mean, is this like spitballs in baseball where, years ago it was a legal pitch and then because of the flu pandemic, as a matter of fact, it didn't become one, All right, Ed Walsh can have a 1.82 ERA back when, but, can't do that anymore. Now, that was then. This is now. Is that what you tell SMU? I mean, that seems to be a real death penalty. And what do you tell if you give these sanctions? That's why I wonder if it's ever going to be in the cards, if it's ever feasible to pay the college players. I mean, it would seem to be going 180 degrees away from what college basketball, college athletics is doing now. Anyway, Stan Wilcox is the guy who's making these comments, and there was an athletic directors conference in Orlando. 2 programs might receive notes of allegations by next month, early next month, and 4 more will probably receive them by the end of the summer. Who could these schools be? Well, let's not forget assistant coaches from 4 schools, Arizona. Yeah, we're Sean Miller, right? In fact, there is some talk that that's why Mladen Armas transferred from ETSU to go to Boise State, because Boise State was getting a 5-star prospect from Arizona to get away from that mess. But anyway, Auburn, hey, Bruce Pearl, really? Huh? Wow, Oklahoma State on probation? You don't say, huh? Southern California, hey, Andy Enfield, he seems to win a lot at play. Well, as an assistant coach right there. Andy Enfield's father was my 9th grade English teacher, by the way. That's something right there, claim to fame. Also, during 2 federal criminal trials in the Southern District of New York, there also is evidence presented or testimony from witnesses that alleged coaches at a handful of other schools, including Creighton. Hey, how does Creighton get good? How are they drawing 17th hour game? Kansas, Louisville, yeah, Pitino lost his job. NC State, say it ain't so, Coach Keats. And Oregon allegedly made offers of improper payments to players and their families or were providing them with payments. Officials at Arizona, Kansas, Louisville, NC State, and Southern California have previously acknowledged their men's basketball programs are under NCAA investigation. I'll say this about Southern California. If the Trojans go on basketball probation, how can Lynn Swann continue to keep his job there as the athletic director at Southern California. Think about it. I mean, you had the whole, Felicity Huffman, Lori Loughlin, buy your way into the college with a Crew scholarship that doesn't even exist type of thing. And then what happens if the basketball program goes on probation? Yeah. Anyway, Pitino so far has been the only coach fired after all these investigations, but I think more heads will roll. So you could have, and remember, some of the schools that might be going on probation. Question, though, is the NCAA is so crippled in terms of giving out tough punishments. I mean, think about this. Because there might have been a $500 under-the-table payment at Clemson back in the day, they got a stiffer probation, a longer bowl ban than Penn State did for their lack of institutional control under Jerry Sandusky. The NCAA is so afraid of those major 5 conferences breaking away from them that ultimately I think that whatever is, punishment and whatever schools get the punishment, it will be ultimately, all things considered, a slap on the wrist. So 6 basketball schools might be going on probation. It might be a lot about nothing. It's also why coaches are getting the axe and not the schools.
And Trav, the boys are heading north.